You are still obsessed with what other people are thinking about you.
Why do people live their lives based on other people's opinions?
If you worry about whether other people think about you, you will always be their prisoner.
Want success? Model the best. So today, let's learn one of the most common rules that successful people follow. Don't care what others think.
So many people ask me on so many different platforms, how do I find the courage to ... As if courage is something outside of you. You don't look under the pillow at home. You don't look under your bed. You don't look in the glove compartment of your car and go find courage. So let me just start off with saying you don't find courage. You cannot find courage. You choose to not allow the fear to manage your choices. So I know that sounds like that's just like want, Lisa, but I'm gonna always tell you the truth. If I told you how to find something, that means that you don't have it already. I'm not gonna tell you how to find something that's not lost. The reality is when you are more consumed with what other people's perception of you than you are with your own truth, you will always feel like you're not enough. You will always feel like you're not enough because no matter how far you come, no matter how far you go, someone will always believe that there's further that you can go, which they're true. It's truth. So how do you manage, or how do you have the courage to have transformation without getting consumed with other people's thoughts of you, perception of you? You become more committed to your own transformation than you are to managing people's perception of your life. You become more committed to the joy that's your birthright, that you know is your birthright, than you are trying to manage people's perception.
Trying to prove people wrong or right about you is a cheap level of motivation, right, and it will wear out. In other words, it's not the lack of it. It's not the best type. People say, well, hey, Tom Brady, 6th-round draft pick. I mean, he's constantly trying to prove them that they picked the wrong guys. I know Tommy a little bit, and I can tell you, that motivates him, but if you think he's become the greatest football player of all time because he's trying to prove people from 20 years ago wrong about where he was drafted, right, you don't get elite performance. Tom Brady is where he is because he sets standards for himself and has massive goals and ambitions for himself, not to prove other people wrong. I promise you, when he's sitting under center in the Super Bowl, he's not going, I was a 6th-round draft pick. That's not what moves him. Yeah. And so I think it's low-level motivation. I do it too. And the sooner you drop, it's the symptom of the same disease. Right. So proving your family wrong or right is a symptom of the same disease, which is you are still obsessed with what other people are thinking about you and not doing things that make you happy, that enrich you, that fulfill your soul. And so the irony about spending your life worrying about what everybody else thinks about you, here's the irony, is that those people will never be thought about after they're dead. So they spend their life obsessing with everyone thinks about them, only to die and have no one ever remember them. Because people that are so obsessed with what other people think about them never really ever fulfill their potential. So once you can drop that addiction, whether it's friends, strangers, or your parents, and you begin to do things that fulfill you, that make you happy, that change other people's lives by your contribution, now you can be remembered. Now your life echoes into eternity, even if it was a quiet life.
The number one thing that I think about every day is, why do people live their lives based on other people's opinions? It is fascinating how many people are dealing with the pressures of what their parents want them to do versus what you want to do. Woo is right. And the reason you're wooing, and the reason that I'm most fascinated, is I am fascinated by watching parents parent their children in the exact way that they hated their parents parented them. It's remarkable to watch. You would think somebody who was forced to go to university and become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, banker, all that pain and anguish that those years created, you would think that they were capable of not repeating it. But the problem is, the great insight of my life is how many parents parent their children only and 100% based on what other parents think about their children.
Any advice for somebody who is taking steps to make a positive change, but he is getting all kinds of negative consequences for bad decisions he took in the past? At some point, in fact, I'll just quote Lao Tzu, the guy that wrote the Tao Te Ching. He said, if you worry about whether other people think about you, you will always be their prisoner. So unless you're prepared to be other people's prisoners, at some point, if they're hurling dirt on you, if they're constantly trying to rebury you under the earth that you're trying to claw your way out from, then you're never going to get out. You've got to just stop worrying about what they think. So they can't actually affect you. They can only try to influence your mindset. So, and even now, if people hate you, slings and arrows, you could get a job digitally. You could go be a freelancer on Upwork or whatever. People don't even have to know who you are. So truly in today's world, they are not going to be able to stop you from getting a job. But they can really mess with your head, but only if you let them. So I will say to that, do not let them. You've got to understand who you're trying to become, believe in your ability to get there, to become that person, to understand that to continue to beat yourself up for something in the past is not going to serve you. And so for that very reason, let it go.
Also, if you want to learn to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
You're gonna play ginormous, say ginormous. But first, take baby steps.
The minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control. And it never fills you up.
You have to go build self-confidence.
I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to understand where your threshold is of how much crap you could take from other people, how much negativity, how much feedback and criticism that you could take without it impacting your psyche or your self-worth. I think in general as an entrepreneur, you need to be prepared to get a lot of crap, a lot of negativity, a lot of stuff thrown at you. And yes, it's easy to say, don't care what other people think, but understanding what your tolerance level is and where you kind of fit on that spectrum can really help you design the rules so that they're in your favor. So as an example, there's a guy on my team who doesn't handle criticism as well. You know, I'm a lot more comfortable in the uncomfortable where he can bounce around a lot more. He'll be on top of the world, like this is great, and then a negative feedback comes in and it really impacts him hardly, and then the positive one comes in and he jumps back up. And so for someone like him, you can't design as much risk, as much negativity or potential negativity, so you gotta take a safe path up. Where for me, I'm more comfortable in the uncomfortable. I know that eventually something's gonna work out, and I know that at the beginning of any project, it's gonna be rough, that it may not work out, that we're gonna get some criticism. And so I'm more willing to jump all in and play in that field, even though it's painful at the moment, because I know the faster I get through that pain, the faster we're gonna come out the other side. I want that feedback and criticism and negativity as soon as possible so that I can make it better. Better for you, better for me, better for everybody. And so understanding what your tolerance level is of emotional stability, how much you can take from your friends and your family and your customers and your audience and the people watching you before you break, and then being able to play just below that limit. Because you can't just play super safe, because that's not gonna make you happy as an entrepreneur. But knowing what your limit is and playing just below it, so that it's uncomfortable, it's painful, but you're still gonna be able to get through it, I think is really important. That self-awareness, I think is really important as an entrepreneur.
Look, man, I've been labeled OCD, ACD, compulsive, obsessive, COD, bipolar. You know, they wanted to put me on lithium, Prozac, all this medication, okay? I mean, real, like serious drugs. I'm not talking about smoking weed on the weekends. And that was supposedly to handle my energy or my creativity or the fact that I didn't like sitting in a chair for 45 minutes at a time in school listening to a history class of something that happened 300 years ago that had nothing to do with me, when I'm sitting there saying, hey, listen, I just want to learn how to make some money, man. So, you know, it's finally when I quit letting everybody, all these average people, label me and said, you know what, I'm gonna take this obsessive, compulsive, this whatever this energy is that has been, you know, made wrong by society. I'm gonna take this energy and I'm not gonna suppress it anymore, and I'm gonna use it. So for all the kids out there, teenagers that are being mislabeled, millennials a label, man. Introvert is a label. Lazy is a label. Nobody's lazy. Nobody is born lazy. These labels are being given to people incorrectly. And the truth is, nobody's actually lazy, okay? You're not born lazy. You're made lazy. You're allowed to be lazy. You're encouraged to be lazy. You're surrounded by a bunch of people that are lazy, and then you become lazy. People that are being labeled OCD, ADD, ADHD. I think they're geniuses. It's waiting for you. There's this big gift sitting there waiting to bubble up. Don't medicate it and don't push it down. Give it a voice. Let it be greatness and genius rather than something bad.
I have a tendency to judge myself based on other people's opinions of me, and that's sort of where a lot of my anxieties have always been, and something that I'm trying to change, but I don't know, 1 year of doing that isn't going to solve that. And so I think, now with the show ending and moving forwards into my life and deciding what I want to do, I just worry that if people are very vocal about what they think on my life, that it might affect me. Even if it just upsets me, like that kind of scares me, because when I get upset, it makes me just forget a lot of the things that I've worked so hard to try and understand. It's
you put that energy on that upset or people's opinions.
Exactly.
As opposed to the good things you've done.
Yeah.
Or your mission or what you want to create.
Yeah, and that's when it starts creeping back in, It's like one knock or one thing you read, and then it can just spiral. And I know that I'm still very capable of doing that. Wow. So it's just, that's what my biggest fear is for the future, because I don't want it to stop me from doing things I want to do.
Yeah.
But other people's opinions do still really affect me.
I feel that being on television and being a woman and a strong woman, that I have a responsibility to, communicate how I feel and inspire and be honest. And I feel responsibility. By the same token, I don't really think about what people think about me, because I feel like if you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. And I believe that you shouldn't buy into the love, how much people love you, get all jacked up by that, or buy into the hate, how much they hate you. So I feel like I'm right down the middle with that. I'm polarizing. I know people hate me, people love me, and I'm not, I don't play favorites. If you hate me, I respect it, because, you have an opinion and you're allowed to. And if you love me, I love it, and it's great, and you're helping pay my mortgage and my kids' everything. So it is what it is.
People have a tendency to care more about what other people are thinking about them than what their soul wants. And so they live from, what is so-and-so going to think of me? And what's my mother going to think of me? What's the society's going to think of me? And inside, everyone has a destiny, bright, beautiful destiny. The soul is calling us to greatness. Your name of your show, to be great beings, to be great lights, to live fully. And oftentimes people will dim their light in order to fit into someone else's paradigm and end up with crisis, end up with disease, end up with prolonged sadness.
Yeah.
When if you just step out of that, there's so much life to live. You see. So I think a lot of people are just run by what others are thinking about them rather than what their soul wants.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people still have about you or have about you?
I don't know
if you think about that.
I don't know, because whatever someone thinks about me is not my business anyway.
Yeah. Did you come to learn that, or?
Yeah, that's just really what it is.
Yeah.
When I learned it, someone explained it to me. I go, yeah, that is true. That's none of my business if someone's talking about me.
So that increased your confidence, probably, or?
No, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not impulsive as I was when I was younger. Somebody would say something, what? Bah, boom. I wouldn't get in that argument anymore.
I'm glad it's not like that anymore.
No, me too, right? I was worried in my 30s. I was worried something bad gonna happen.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Mel Robbins on how to stop living for others that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. Whose opinions do you need to stop caring about? Number 2, how have those fears held you back? And number 3, what can you do today to push through those fears and take action?
We still own you as parents, correct? You live in our house, you got to follow our rules to a certain extent, but you have to also be true to you. And one of the things that can be very damaging to your friendships and to your relationships with your parents is if you're not open about the things that you're thinking about, that you're not open about the fears that you have, if you're not open about what you perceive your parents' expectations to be for your life, versus what you want. Because the one thing that I know about entrepreneurs is that we've all been down the road of doing something in our lives to please other people. And usually it didn't work. And one of the reasons why we're driven to do our own thing is we know what happens when you are able to align things that you're passionate about with being able to make a living. And so I already know, regardless of what your own opinion is about your parents, that you're lucky enough to have parents that get this. Am I right? That what they want more than no, you guys aren't raising your hand to back me up on this? You better. That what they want more than anything is for you to be open with them. What parents want more than anything for their kids is for them to be happy. The conflict comes because we have an opinion about what we think is going to make you happy. And what would really alleviate a lot of the pressure that you may feel, I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm talking about all kids in general, is having the courage to have the conversation about what you're thinking. You know, like there's nothing worse than making decisions because you think it's what your parents want, and then you end up resenting them. What you want to do is have the kind of relationship, which you already do because you're here, where you can talk to them about the things that you're learning, about what you're experiencing, about what you're afraid of, about what you think you're interested in, about what they learned, about what mistakes they made. You want the conversation, not the approval. Does that make sense? The connection. Go for that. Like, stop looking at approval, guys, and start looking at connection.
If you want to learn how to develop an insane work ethic, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You deserve what you get in life by working hard.
I love hard work.
Hard work.